Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pillars of Freedom podcast. This is your host, Cody James Aiken, and bringing you one step closer to realizing your personal lifestyle freedom. And we have a very special guest today. Her name is Dafne Martinez, and she is a fellow entrepreneur and leader in one of the communities that I'm involved in. It's called the Oasis Elevate Affiliate Program. And I'm bringing her on the show today because she's been such an inspiring leader on the team, consistently adding value to the people who not only recently joined the program, but who continue to work through, the challenges that they face in establishing their own income. I brought Dafne on also because she is so enthusiastic about sharing her story. I literally was sharing with her just before the podcast that I'm so grateful that I have someone who's willing to share their story, and so soon. I reached out to her, what was it, yesterday, day before yesterday, something like that. And yeah, I mean, here we are, less than 48 hours later. Who does that? Who's willing to make time in their calendar to be able to share their story these days? So, without further ado, I could introduce Dafne. I've seen only a small glimpse of her life, but just being able to talk with her for a few minutes, I'm absolutely delighted to be able to bring you, fellow entrepreneur, and someone who's already making waves in the community. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Miss Dafne Martinez.
Well,
Dafne, yeah, you're very welcome. Do you mind just maybe taking like a quick minute or two to kind of introduce yourself? I know you shared a little bit with me about your background, but do you mind telling uh, the audience here, really, age, education, home life as a kid, home life now as an adult, and some of the things that you're aspiring to do?
cool. Yeah. So, hi everyone. It was a great introduction. Thank you so much for that, Cody. I really appreciate that. And yeah, so I'm currently 23, um, and 2024. I think it's September. Yeah, it's getting closer. But yeah, I have a quite diverse background because even though I was born in U.S. grounds, I grew up most of my life in Belgium, and my parents have different backgrounds too. Like my dad is Dutch, and my mom is from Venezuela, and she has also some family in Mexico and the Dominican Republic. So it's like families scattered all over the world. And yeah, so that's why I'm able to have different cultures in my life that influenced me, different languages, different perspectives as well of life. And I have two younger siblings that I'm trying to inspire as well with my own path and my own journey. And yeah, I have a background in just for the longest time I didn't know what I wanted to do until it hit me that music was my biggest passion ever, like ever since I was a little toddler. And I actually studied musicology in college, but I never really agreed with the education system. So um, it just wasn't working out for me. And the reason why is because of all these different perspectives, I couldn't really go by the book like most teachers wanted to. Um, but yeah, I still finished. I still did my thing because whatever I started, I wanted to finish. And eventually, I moved on to working in the Netherlands for a year in as an intern for a video conferencing company, and it was an intern for marketing actually. So that's where I really just got the first little baby step into the marketing world and how everything works. And because of that, I got another offer as for to become an intern for another video conferencing company in Austin, Texas, and that is what brought me here in Austin, Texas. My family and everyone is still overseas, but I'm here by myself, and I was just building myself as a person. Um, so yeah, and after that, I had a couple of jobs. Like I after that, I had a Accenture job for a music project as well. Um, and then COVID hit, and that's when I realized, well, damn, there is no guarantee in anything. And that was my point of hitting rock bottom, actually, until because a lot of other like uh, factors came into that besides losing my job. Like um, I had quite some personal issues too that I had to work through. But as I was going through that very like rock bottom victim mindset, like barely getting out of the bed in the morning for 2 weeks straight, like it took my roommate to be like, hey, join a dance class with me. I don't know, at least something. And I'm really grateful for that as well, for her to help me out to get out of my room. And that's when I came across Oasis, and yeah, just that's where the journey really, really started. Oasis was my cataclysmic moment of, well, I got to get out of this because there's more to life than just this. And and I started the Rise program, which is the program that takes calls for all the affiliates. And it's more about self development than the actual skill. And it's all more about mindset. Like that's when I really truly understood why people kept saying it's 80% mindset, 20% skills. Like it is. You change that so much, that's, mindset is really, really the first thing. And just even showing up, like, wow. So
Wow,
that's where I'm
that
at.
is
Yeah.
that is fantastic. And my goodness, what a way to start a podcast by sharing an awesome story. There's so many nuggets in there. We could literally go in so many directions. And I say that honestly because I think the people who, really would get the most out of this podcast would like to know, you know, what were some of those transformational moments? And we'll get there. Um, can I ask you a few questions about your background? And because I think that'll really kind of help set the stage on why like what you mentioned was why Oasis had such a big impact. So, do you mind I ask you some questions about your background?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Okay, cool, cool. So, you mentioned that even though you were born here in the U.S. And you're back now in the U.S., that your cultural backgrounds is that you grew up in Belgium, but it sounds like part of your family is also from Mexico, at least like South America, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm real quick, how did the kind of different cultures, how did the kind of different cultural influences really kind of shape your aspirations? And how do you feel like that really helped you become who you are today?
Wow. It's just I always been fascinated with analyzing people and like picking their brains a bit. Ever since a young age, like when people say when you're 5 years old you have that why period. Well, that never really ended with me. I would always ask the why questions no matter what. um, and yeah, my parents, they're still a little bit like, and because they're my parents, they usually parents are kind of in the old-fashioned mindset sometimes. And I don't know, I had a gut feeling that I just knew there was something more out there, and that there is a lot more improvement that I could do for myself, no matter where I come from. And then meeting all the different families from all different parts of the world is just it just feels like you're more in tune with how connected humanity can be, like how different cultures, no matter all the differences in languages, in food, and like the way they think about certain societal topics. It's just like we're, even though we're all so different, we're all still the same on a profound level. And comparing that, and comparing where the family that I have in Mexico to the family I have in Dominican Republic, and see how they live, what their lifestyle is at, and how they talk about certain topics and what they're passionate about. Like, it's just, it really helped me understand like there are so many different ways you can look at things. And it's up to me in the end to make a decision and be like, okay, well, I can now allow all these different views to be saved up in my brain, and now understand, okay, well, what kind of person or individual do I want to be, and do I want to agree with or not agree with, and not from a judgmental perspective, but be like, just like, okay, this is so cool that there's so many different perspectives, and there's not just one. It's not a right or wrong. It's really just like, okay, this is my own individuality. I want to add to this or I don't, and that's my own choice. And just learning the power of being able to make choices, and no one can take that away from you. Like that is just, yeah. So like that was a breakthrough with my brain. Yeah.
That's awesome. So it sounds like having these different like cultural influences really helps you realize that there's so much more to life, and also seeing how the different, sounds like different sides of your family live, the possibilities that you could create for yourself. And already it seems kind of like you have a little bit of like the kind of rebellious adventurer, and the kind of archetype that says I'm going to forge my own path. And it sounds like one of the major uh, one of the major insights that came from having these multiple different cultural influences is kind of like the liberation of your identity and who you can really uh, help yourself become, not only by kind of reflecting on like what is, but what could be. And so that is super cool. And I I mean, I kind of wish I had such a diverse cultural background. Um, I grew up, small town, nothing major, except that we have just an incredible scientific community here. Um, I don't have that kind of global perspective, like I feel like I'm kind of hearing from you. And to see that, I mean, even just the fact that you have like multiple influences, especially coming back from like a childhood perspective, it sounds like as an adult it's empowering you more to become like your own individual and really become kind of the hero of your own journey. Is that right?
Yeah, that's about right.
Awesome. That is so cool.
And the only thing I wanted to add is just, people that do come from smaller towns, like that shouldn't stop them from becoming what they want to become or exploring whatever they want to explore. Like there are so many opportunities out there right now, and like the internet, like even though there are some scary corners, not gonna lie, we all know them, but like the internet does allow us to be able to just look things up in a matter of like less than a second time to see what is out there and explore, like, okay, well, what is the next place I want to visit, like what, because I've met people who haven't even left US at all, and I understand where they come from because yeah, the US has literally all four seasons in every corner, like, and a lot of beautiful nature as well to see. And there's mountains, there's desert, there's water, everything is in the country. But at the same time, it's still a little bit different to go to outside of the border and figure out, okay, like what is the media really talking about? Why is it so much hyped up if it's real or not? And really just experience that with your own eyes and really just fully bring all your five senses into seeing that for yourself by traveling. And but I also admire people who don't necessarily want to travel and just stay at home and do their own thing and live that life. It's also really beautiful to see that people can do that. So it's like both ends of the spectrum work for whoever you want to be.
Certainly. Yeah, and it sounds like at its core, it's really just kind of the freedom of individuality, the freedom that comes with, sounds like owning, really the core principles here of this podcast, owning your time, your income, and your location. And whether that looks like becoming like a globetrotter or being able to just have the freedom to stay home and maybe even just have a quiet day in or have many quiet days in. It's freedom of choice that it really boils down to, is what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
Very cool. Well, so I'm reading through some of the questions that we kind of went back and forth on earlier, and it sounds like from the standpoint of freedom, you have what I would say is a little bit of a different like view of financial freedom than I would consider. And for me, coming from like more of a scientific and numerical background, especially when it comes to finances, I'd love your thoughts on how you would define financial freedom. Because when I asked you earlier, uh, have you already achieved a level of financial freedom and to what extent? You shared with me a little bit of your story here, and I wanted to dig into it because it sounds like yours is so much more of a mindset as opposed to just a number. Do you mind kind of sharing that with the audience?
Yes. Financial freedom can mean so many things, but it really boils down to what does that really mean to you? And the beauty of that is that every person has their own unique story. And I've learned that from listening to different audiobooks from different like financial gurus or whatever they want to call themselves. And that's when I came across, because I actually wasn't, not long ago, it wasn't too long ago that I was dealing with also like having that mental block around finances and crunching numbers and freaking out about even seeing numbers and stuff. So I just started this journey for myself and just really reached out for resources. And that's another choice that I made, wanting to learn more and explore that world around finances. And there are so many different titles like CPAs, financial advisors. And that's when I came across that there are financial therapists as well. And that's what really resonated with me the most, since I like to dig deeper than just what does a number really say, what does a number really mean to you. And a lot of people think financial freedom is just having 2K in savings or 100K in savings. That's up to you to decide for yourself. For me, that personally means being able to reinvest in myself, being able to have the time and space to self-develop even more, when no matter what aspect I want to develop myself more, whether it's relationships, whether it's career, whether it's social life, whether it's any aspect of your life, really. um, so for me, financial freedom really means is being able to have the resources available to me, um, that I can invest into myself and then go from there onwards. And money is really all about, I think money is more of a byproduct, because I like to say, and I don't remember where I even got this quote from. It just stuck to my mind so much. But like the quote was like, the 2 days in your life that you're truly happy is the day that you were born and the day that you understand why. And that really stuck with me, is because if you once you do understand why and what your true purpose is and your passions are that you want to pursue, even if it doesn't have to be a career choice, it could be anything. um, then yeah, you can create that into a business and eventually money will be a byproduct. But then if you are doing what you love, it doesn't even feel like work anymore. um, and that's what really matters. And I'm still on that journey for myself as well, to establish that for myself more into detail. But like once you go for that, then yeah, just money will flow in, because then you attract that right energy, because it's the same energy you put out. Same way you give is what you give back. So that's why for me it's like a very more deeper meaning than what most people think. um, yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like, pardon me, there's a coffee maker. I hope you can't hear it, but yeah, that's so interesting. Where it's financial freedom is more than just a number. It's what it enables you to do, and it sounds like for you, being able to reinvest in yourself and in your passions, that's the real key. And you mentioned a few things here in the questionnaire about being able to reinvest in yourself, and you're taking a few courses right now. uh, can you kind of like share with me, because right now I'm in one course and I want to be able to expand to multiple courses, especially as I really kind of find the rhythm in creating the podcast and allowing people like yourself to share their stories. Can you kind of expand on what courses you're taking, how and how they're like really helping you to transform your life in the way that you want to, and and then what it is that you think would be like of most value to someone who's maybe looking for that kind of change in their life.
Yeah. So yeah, to be very honest with you, I am still sometimes dealing with like anxiety and stress, and that's something that I just to want to work on, and not just treat the symptoms, actually go to the core of where did that stem from, and being able to change that. Um, so I first started, I first started exploring like my spirituality of like, okay, well, where do I where do I even start? And the things that resonated to me the most were uh, things like, okay, well, then I I want to create a morning routine for myself with yoga practice. I first had some dabbled into like Pilates and stuff, but like yoga was way more beneficial for me personally because it does touch upon more about like breath work, about understanding your emotions because you're trying to balance your nervous system. I can go into detail about the whole science behind it, but um, for lack of time, I won't. But I will say, like, just creating a routine for yourself, and then from there onwards, it's like, okay, well, I invested in a program that actually one of the people in Rise created. Natasha, she's amazing, and she just started this program. So I'm one of her very first persons to like actually try it out with, and I've been doing that daily, like just creating new habits for yourself. First it's like, okay, you break yourself down, what are the new habits you want to create, like create a clean slate for yourself. And then I started learning more about like how breathing, like that made me realize that I wasn't like breathing consciously, if that makes sense. And that's how I was like, okay, now I should have more interest in the breathing program that we have on the Oasis platform with Joseph. And he really goes super, super into detail about all different breathing techniques a person can have and how you can use each technique in each different situation. Like if you want to, relax yourself, or do you want to get yourself focused? Do you want to, like, whatever's happening in your situation, there's always something you can do about it. And it's basically, yeah, providing solutions to whatever situation or problem you think you have. um, and I just started that like only a couple weeks ago, so I'm very fresh to that program. I love it so far. And he does guided breathwork sessions each week. And yeah, if you're something, if you're interested in that, it's great. If you're not, that's also great. Like it could be anything.
Quick
And
question.
then
Can I interrupt
yeah,
that real quick? I
yeah.
think that's fabulous, and I saw you open up there, and I appreciate that because you opened up with a bit more vulnerability than I expected, and the fact that we literally started only talking face to face about 30 minutes ago, I think that's awesome. Um, so it sounds like that is that course Breathe. That's the name of the course, Breathe. Okay, excellent. It sounds like for those who are basically interested in self mastery, where they're looking for ways where they can kind of calm their state and become more, probably not even, not just more focused, but more relaxed and feel like they have kind of like the balance of control but still the confidence to let things flow. That's kind of like the vibe I'm getting from that. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. Like mind and body is one, and you're trying to control that because we're so much like in our automatic system, what your subconsciously are doing, but then you're trying to build that bridge between subconscious and consciously, so that you can understand why you're doing certain things in what manner and how you can change that. So it's not always a calming effect. It could also be like, oh, well, there's something I got to work on there because I haven't even thought about it consciously before, you know? So it's a quite a journey for those who want to explore that. And then career wise, I'm doing courses on affiliate marketing. I continue retaking the course for Rise for the team because I keep learning and seeing something new. It's like whenever you rewatch a movie, there's always something new to see in the background or whatever detail you missed in the plot or something. Uh, and I also am taking another program that teaches me more into depth about organic strategies on like the different platforms. Instead of paid ads, you can choose to do organic strategies, and that's a skill that I would love to learn for myself, since I do want to be able to learn to apply those skills for music. Once I build my own brand for myself, eventually in the future, it's a plan.
Definitely. Well, and it sounds like so. In addition to the course like Breathe, where you're pursuing that for, it sounds like a form of self mastery. You're also pursuing courses, reinvesting in yourself to create wealth. And in
Mhm.
this case, it sounds like through two different courses, the Elevate affiliate course and the Rise course. And it sounds like, from what I've gathered, being part of the Elevate affiliate course, but only being able to see a little bit of the outside of the Rise course, obviously, functionally, they dovetail. I mean, the Elevate team, the Rise team, they work together harmoniously to be able to bring people into the community. Now,
Mhm.
it sounds like, from what I've gathered, the Elevate affiliate course is focused on marketing, so reaching people with a certain message, and basically from a business standpoint, generating leads. And then Rise, being more focused on the closing and the sales, they essentially turn those leads into customers or clients, or in this case, affiliates for the community. Um, how do you feel like, just real quickly, the skill set and the mindset that you've learned from Elevate and Rise together has helped shape your career, at least, or even just your career trajectory? Because a lot of people that might be listening to this are still employees, and they're looking for an edge on how to differentiate themselves, not only by breaking out of maybe the employee system, but establishing themselves as an entrepreneur. What is maybe one or two things that you've experienced through both of those courses that you feel have really given you an edge on being able to take control of your life?
Both courses have taught me how to become a better version of myself. To say it very, very like simple, it's lots of ups and downs, and a lot of people underestimate that, like how much of a roller coaster it can be, because there is indeed so much out there on the internet being like, oh, you can get rich quick, or you can, it's really, you can make money overnight or something like that. And I'm like, no, like it's really, you put in the work for it, because you're first, you build that mindset, and just building that mindset at first really takes a lot of work. And then as you go through the course, it's like, okay, well, there's literally a proven process laid out for you that you just have to follow if you choose to. You can also choose not to still be part of the community. um, but what I really want to say is that it's, from what I've learned from Elevate, is no matter how much you do or try, there's no trying, there's really just doing. And that there's so much you can learn from just looking inside your brain first before you even do all the technical aspects of it and really dive into it. um, because if you cannot overcome those mental blocks that you have, if whether you know it or not, eventually you'll notice that, oh, there is a mental block here, I got to work through that, and then everything else will flow, and flow easier, not in the sense like, oh, it just happens, it falls from the sky. I mean, like, it'll flow because were able to overcome that mental block, because in the end you'll always stand in your own way, and if you are able to open up that path for yourself, then everything else will flow easier. um, and that's what I've also learned from Rise. But Elevate was way more into detail for that, and then for Rise, it's really about how can I handle different situations with different, when I talk with different people from all over the world. And yes, having those different perspectives helps, but also, like, even then, people still want to be able to create that freedom for themselves. And how can you help others the same way you're helping yourself to overcome those mental blocks in order to open that portal for them towards their own freedoms, no matter what it is defined for them, towards the goals that they define for themselves, and actually make that plan of action and turn those people that are kind of passive into action takers. Because that what really matters. The more you provide that value, they'll be so grateful. And I'm also grateful that I'm allowing myself to do this, you know. So
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And my goodness, like, I mean, the fact that you talk about what I heard another entrepreneur, who I was listening to a podcast of his yesterday. He talked about the biggest differentiator between amateurs and professionals is what's called playing the inner game versus versus the outer game. And he says most amateurs, they believe that playing the outer game is how you win the game. And what he means by that is the outer game of marketing, of sales, of the things that actually take to like run a business from a functional standpoint. He says that's one of the biggest misconceptions, because people are always looking for the how to. How do I do this? How do I accomplish XYZ result? He says the biggest thing is that professionals realize that winning the game is not playing the external game, but the internal game. And it's exactly what you just described. It's learning how to win from the inside out. And it sounds like the course, which can, like, detail by detail, show you how to create an income online, it sounds like the transformational effects is exactly what he described of winning the inner game. And it sounds also like, with the dovetail between Elevate, which is helping you cultivate kind of like the mindset and the identity of success, introducing the rise aspects where you're not only, like, cultivating yourself, you're also helping cultivate others. I mean, would you say that if anyone is looking to really kind of unlock their freedom, that they should consider both Elevate and Rise from your personal experience?
It really depends on each person's situation and what they want to achieve and their goals, like what skill set would work, would help them move forward in their own journey. Um, and but like, yeah, from my personal experience, like I actually first heard about Oasis through Elevate. Like I had my first initial call to be able to sign up for Elevate, but then he started talking, and I don't know, we just started talking. It was with Matt Bauer. He's still in the Rise program, but I think he's doing his own thing right now a little bit more. So sometimes he takes calls, sometimes he doesn't. And that's totally fine too. Like we have that freedom. Um, but he just started talking to me and asking me a lot of questions. And all of a sudden he was like, well, you're actually a better fit for a Rise program because you're so talkative, you're a people's person, and you're extrovert. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've never done anything like that before. I've never had a job or whatever um, that involves talking to people on the phone from all over the world. And in that moment, I just was like, well, COVID just hit. I feel isolated. Like, probably this is probably what's going to help me to get out of my shell again. And it did. Like, um, back in the day, I used to struggle so much with words and form sentences, even because I was so insecure. And because of that, it's like you've built that confidence and um, that figure of authority that you always kind of like when you're insecure, you kind of lack that within yourself. You start building that up little by little with little blocks each step along the way. And I'm still on my, path of, because there's no end. There's like always you keep learning. Um, and sometimes still do struggle with words, but now it's not like a thing of, oh, well, I could have worked that better. Now it's like, okay, it happens because I'm human too, and you start accepting those little faults. And that's where the confidence really comes from, to just start accepting yourself more and more. And um, where I was going with this is that, both the Rise and Elevate program can build that up for yourself. And you doesn't really matter how extroverted or introverted you are, as long as you keep getting yourself out of your comfort zone, because that's where real growth happens. Um, so yes, you could do both if you decide to do that. Um, that will be great because then you have both skill set under your umbrella. But then at the same time, like if you just want to have that focus and clarity, you can start with one and then eventually move on to the next one. And that's the freedom we have within the Oasis company too. Like you can start with Rise like I did, eventually move up to Elevate if you want, and then eventually become a course creator yourself as well. Like we have that freedom for you to move that around so that you can um, have that skill set eventually. But of course, focus and clarity is always the first step I would suggest. Um, but yeah, there are people that like to do a lot of things at the same time. And if that works for them, that works for them, that's beautiful.
Definitely. Well, and I appreciate you sharing so much of your experience and how really it's helping you transform your life. Because I know that there are so many people in our community who want to know that that basically what we have to offer, as affiliates, between the courses that we can promote and the courses that we can take ourselves, that they will actually help us get the results they want. And you've talked especially about how they're affecting you personally, how they're impacting your life and helping you become, really, it sounds like, the better version of yourself. Um, I'm also really curious because obviously these, so many, I think, if not all, of the people who join the Elevate community, the Oasis community, they join not only because they see the potential to have real relationships and experience transformation. A lot of it is actually making money, just being able to have the freedom to make money on your own terms. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how, whether it's Elevate or Rise, how enrolling in those courses that help cultivate wealth have actually like achieved a level of financial freedom? Because I know just from the outside looking in, Rise seems like another fantastic way to be able to really kind of make income on your own terms. Do you mind kind of sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, that's really true. Like once you have built that mindset, everything will start flowing in, and it's because you just attract that energy, and you attract wanting, wanting to have that abundance. You put it out in the universe, and the universe listens to you. And with money, it's like, well, a very very specific example. I joined Rise when I was hitting rock bottom, and I was like, well, with my previous job that I lost because of COVID, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I didn't have anything in savings. And I was fine with that, but I didn't know there, you could grow out of that. You could do more if I wanted to. And I did want it to. Because when I lost my job, I was like, well, I miss my family now. They're overseas. What do I do? Christmas is about to come. Like, what am I going to do for that? Um, but because of my earnings with Rise, I was actually able to travel back, even if it was only for 2 weeks. Like it was just, it was such a relieving moment because I don't know how to explain this, but I joined Rise with nothing in my account. I like applied for a new credit card. I asked friends to help me out, and I was able to pay them back within the first month already. And I was able to also pay off the credit card, but then I also still had some left over to actually travel and get some how to say that, like little presents or something, little gifts for my little siblings overseas, and just being able to have the time and space as well to just be 2 weeks overseas back with my family. And even though COVID was worse over there and there was nothing much I could do, at least I was there with family again, and that was the most meaningful that I was able to do that. Because I did, if I didn't have financial means, I probably would have not been able um, to do that. And that was for me the biggest like mind blowing moment of holy dang, like I can actually do this. There's so much potential, and it's up to you to allow yourself to receive that potential and receive that success so that you can move forward no matter what you wanted to do. And now my next step is getting a car for myself, for example. So yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. That is honestly the best thing I've heard all week. We hear oftentimes and see in the community on different posts, success stories, and oftentimes, it's simply a meme where it's like, "Hey, I made another sale today." But oftentimes, it's never much deeper than that. We want to see success in our community, but I don't think anybody's put it the way you have. I don't think anybody has told your story just yet. And I think the fact that you're sharing this now is incredible because you said you were at rock bottom where for even a period of 2 weeks, you were basically almost glued to your bed, having a difficult time getting out of bed. And it sounds like not for lack of ability, but just for lack of really sound like purpose.
Oh
And
yeah, for
really
sure.
just climbing out of it. I mean, probably just an incredibly dark place, especially when you said you came from Netherlands where you had a year-long internship in marketing, and now you travel overseas. You come to Austin, Texas for another intern marketing, um, and COVID hits, and it literally pulls the rug. It sounds like pulls the rug underneath your life, and then the opportunity comes for you to really um, kind of build your own lifeboat. And it sounds like you it sounds like you really took advantage of something that so many people overlook. And I think one of the biggest excuses that I hear time and time again is people say, well, I can't do it, I don't have the resources. Is it fair to say you didn't have the resources,
No, I
but
didn't.
you were resourceful? You leaned on friends, you sought solutions, because you saw a real opportunity to really kind of not only pick yourself up, but get back to a kind of normal. And between asking friends and taking out a credit card, not only did you get the solutions, but you hustled, girl. It sounds like you worked super hard, that in the
Yeah.
period of a month, you paid back your friends and off the card, and you still had enough to go overseas for not 1 week, 2 weeks, and purchase gifts for your little siblings. I don't know how you can tell a better story than that, but here's what blows my mind. Have you ever told that story before?
I have talked about it in the Rice community, not in the Elevate community yet. But
Okay.
yeah, you you gave me, yeah, you inspired me to now retell that story in the Elevate community. That's really cool. And
Here's what blows my mind. The fact that this is the first time I'm hearing that. If I heard that for the when I was exploring Oasis or even like saw other opportunities like Rise, do you know how fast I would jump on that opportunity? I mean, we're here to inspire our fellow entrepreneurs, but do you realize I don't I wonder how much closer you are to realizing, like you said, your next goal is to really get a car for yourself. How by you telling that story, how many mental barriers are you going to break for the people who need to be in this community?
because
Girl, this is blowing
yeah,
my mind.
that's true. But at the same time, I also want to say, like, whatever results I have delivered for myself is because of my own work, and my own results won't be the same for other people. Like, that really comes down to them and what they are willing to do to achieve their goals, no matter what goals they have defined for themselves. So every person's results can be different. Like, we have another affiliate in Elevate who has only signed up 4 days ago and already made his first sale. That's all great to hear, and it's all very positive and very motivating. And it doesn't really show of how fast you can do it. It shows of like what's the potential that is here, and it's up to you to do the work to actually reach that and make that happen for yourself. And every person's journey is so unique and so different, and that's why I love the community, because everyone shares what's going on. And um, I feel like in Rise a little bit more at this moment in time than Elevate, because a lot of Elevate people are like not sure what to share about, and yes, like you said, new sale posts, but not really the story behind it. And that's what we're trying to change. Like, we're trying to up that engagement, not only through this podcast but through so many other ways that we're all trying to establish for the Elevate community to open up a bit more. And within the Rise community, like, if you ever get the chance to be a part of that, then you'll really see all those stories are being posted in there. And it's crazy. People do this not just for themselves to be able to achieve their own goals, but also for others. Like, especially people that have their own families. They're like, I'm doing this for my daughter, or I'm doing this, for giving back to my parents. And that's what really inspires people, because people lack that feeling of connecting and being able to give back sometimes. And when they see that that can actually happen, it's like, oh, okay, well, now I got to snap out of it and actually make it happen, you know? And I can really just only give credit to my mom, really. My mom is the one who showed me there's only two choices in life. She always talked to me like I was an adult since I was a child. Like, you only have two choices in life. You can either do the easy way out and, feel sorry for yourself and keep going that route and just, make life easy but not be happy. Or you can go a difficult way out and just snap out of that victim mindset, snap out of those excuses, and just, yeah, be resourceful and start making it happen no matter what it takes. And back then I didn't know what she was talking about. I would get so like frustrated. But now I'm like connecting the dots and I'm like, whoa, this is why. And even Steve Jobs said it himself. You cannot connect the dots looking backwards. You can looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, really. Um, and that's so true. That is so true. Yeah. So even if
Oh,
it
that
doesn't
is
make sense now, just keep going. Trust the process.
trust the process. Oh, that is so cool. Well, Daphne, I love hearing more of your mindset and just how even it sounds like you have only been part of the community for not, it sounds like not even a year, right? Is that
Yeah.
right?
So when I
When
was
did you join?
for Rise, I joined in October 2020, but I wasn't really part of the team until like November 2020. And then I took a short break from myself to regroup myself and do some more inner work. And then Elevate, that was since April, I believe. Yeah, yeah, end of April.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's so it sounds like really in the process of not even a year, I mean, it sounds like this has totally changed your life and opened up so many new, really just possibilities. You mentioned that your kind of trajectory next is to get a car. I kind of want to help build your dream a little bit. What is that car? What does it look like? And how does it make you feel when you imagine it?
Honestly, I'm like still undecided. I'm still different. Like I want the Toyota RAV4, the newest model, or the Mazda CX-5 because they're both like pretty decent compact SUVs, and they have um, and I've heard that Toyota is a little bit more reliable, so I'm now leaning towards that choice. But since I, only got back in the U.S. In June 2019, and the first entire year, I didn't even had a credit score or like jumped in the credit system because I was still, I wasn't even sure if I was going to stay in Austin, so I only came like worked around here, and whatever earnings I had, I would send it to my Belgian account. But like now that I'm like, okay, I really want to stay in Austin, Texas, even though I want to travel, this is definitely feels more like home to me than my home in Belgium. Only started building up credit since last August. And ever since then, like I've just been building it up little by little. And I'm like this close to getting it to the perfect score that I want to get the lowest interest rate for my car. Like my car is just a short-term goal, but the fact that it happened in less than a year time, like it's so mind-blowing. Like what? Just never miss a payment. That's all that matters. And pulling all strings. Like I reach out to my landlord, see if he can what's it called, like report my on-time rent payments for to like up my credit score. There's different apps that you can try out, like Self, that you can build your credit score up. So there's so many different ways, and just being resourceful is really what yeah has been helping me a lot. And the fact that you acknowledge that really validates it for me as well. So I appreciate that.
Very cool. Well, I am absolutely happy to because it delights me seeing really just how these opportunities just continue to feed like positivity and possibility into your life. Um, I mentioned earlier that I don't want to take up much of your time, and I want to respect our time for our listeners here too. Um, Probably one or two final questions. Before I ask my final questions, do you feel like there are any questions that I should have asked you today as you share a little bit of your experience?
um oh, that you should have asked me. It's a good question. I haven't even thought of that. I think like where am I going with this, with trying all this different stuff, and why did I start it at such a young age? Whereas most people don't even think about these things at the age of 23 or earlier. And I think it's because I feel I have accepted that the time is now. Like the past, I can let go of, I can only learn from, and the future doesn't even exist yet. So, like, why not now? No matter if you don't have the resources, well, then make it happen. Go for those resources. Figure out what is needed to get you there. Because now is really the only time, or the only notion of time that you exist in. So whatever choice you do now or you create for yourself now eventually will impact your future. But there's no need to even worry about your future. The only thing you got to worry is about what you do today. That's really what I want to
Wise words.
give away.
Yeah. Well, that is wonderful. Well, I appreciate that you've given me your time and really just been willing to share your experience today. My One of my last questions is, where can all of these wonderful listeners find you if they want to find you, follow you, and grow with you?
It'll be on Facebook, uh, Instagram, LinkedIn. Even though LinkedIn I'm not that active, but definitely where more growth I hope will happen will be Spotify and Apple Music as well, since I am an artist and I am planning on releasing some stuff. And eventually I also want to build up my TikTok and YouTube. So eventually you'll be able to get access to that too. But for now, Facebook and Instagram are my two go-tos. So
Okay, and if people wanted to find you for either your personal account, music accounts for Facebook or Instagram, what do they search? Do you have a specific username or a specific name that you go by on Facebook or
um,
Instagram?
it's my name, and then I think it has like NY added to it because I used to be so obsessed with New York. I might change that in the future, but for now it's like D Martinez NY. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll be sure that we'll clarify that after the after the episode. Make sure that all of that is super clear in the messenger here, and I'll be sure to post all those links so that these wonderful people can find you, follow you, and grow with you in the show notes. So, my last and final question before we sign off and maybe have a little more chit chat, Daphne, is if you can say maybe one or two things to the creators of those courses that have helped you unlock this kind of lifestyle freedom and really just give yourself the possibilities. The creators like Oasis, like Andrew, including the creators of Elevate, like Mike or Steven or Andrew, and then Rise, which I think is Jake, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
If you have, and then Breathe, of course, Josh. Um, if you could say anything to the creators of those courses that have helped impacting you and transforming your life today, what would you tell them?
Is that I am grateful for their existence and for all the years they have put in their life until now to gain that knowledge so that they can help others with it, and that knowing and understanding the value of all the inner work they have needed to do in order to get themselves in this place in this time of or point of time is just so valuable, and to keep improving so that others can keep improving with you as well. So I am very grateful.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I hope that they get this message and that it literally makes their day. Cool. Well, Daphne, we're going to go ahead and end the recording here. We can stick around and chit chat, but for all you listeners at home, listening in the car, at the office, this has been Daphne Martinez on the Elevate, Rise, Breathe, and here at the Pillars of Freedom podcast. We look forward to having more wonderful guests like Daphne on the show to help you unlock your lifestyle freedom. This has been your Coast Hody. Coast Hody. Oh my gosh. Did you catch that? I caught that barely. This has been your host, Cody, and I hope you guys enjoyed yourself today, made progress today, and grew today. We'll catch you next time.